Now looking at other Allied advances in the Pacific, we'll start by looking at the Doolittle Raid. And if you've seen the movie Pearl Harbor, this raid is depicted kind of towards the end of the movie when the main characters decide that they become part of a planned attack on Japan, and that attack actually was the Doolittle Raid. Alec Baldwin plays Doolittle in the movie, and there they launch an attack. Now, well, this really was a real attack. James Doolittle was an Army lieutenant colonel, and he led a group of 16 American bombers on a daring air raid of Tokyo and several other Japanese cities. Doolittle's raid did not do major damage to the Japanese targets, but it did give American people something to celebrate, and it worried Japan's leaders. And then fortunes began to shift with a couple of victories for the Allied forces in the Pacific, starting with victory in the Battle of the Coral Sea and victory at Midway. So first let's look at the Battle of Coral Sea. Japan prepared to invade New Guinea. U.S. Admiral Chester Nimitz sent 2 aircraft carriers to stop the attack. The Americans lost an aircraft carrier in the battle but stopped the Japanese attack. For the first time, a Japanese advance had been halted. Now we look at the Battle of Midway. Japan tried to lure the Americans into a large sea battle around Midway Island. Naval officers had broken a Japanese code and learned of the plan. Nimitz devised a plan to thwart the attack and placed his 3 aircraft carriers carefully. The Americans destroyed 3 of the 4 Japanese carriers and won a major victory. Now we look at Allied progress in the Pacific. The Allies gained control of territory in the Solomon Islands to protect Australia, and used a powerful combination of land, sea, and air forces to capture key islands. And this was part of what becomes known as an island hopping campaign. Quite literally, the Allies went island to island, getting closer to mainland Japan. They took advantage of American industrial power by replacing ships and aircrafts, which Japan was unable to do. Japan, their turnaround time to replace lost ships and aircraft was much greater than ours, simply because of our industrial might. We had the capability to quickly replace our lost planes and aircraft, as well as ships. And so doing so enabled us to have the upper hand. One major battle was the Battle of Guadalcanal. The Allies wanted to gain control of the Solomon Islands to protect Australia, and a key goal was the capture of an island called Guadalcanal. The American forces fought for 6 months and finally defeated the Japanese. The Philippines. So once again, we go back to recapture the Philippines. And the first major battle was the Battle of Leyte Gulf. The Allies destroyed most of Japan's fleet, and it was here that Japan began to use a terrifying new tactic called the kamikaze attack. Many of you may be aware of what the kamikaze attack is. The term kamikaze meant divine wind, and in effect, these were like the first suicide bombers. Quite literally, what they would do is load their planes with explosives and then fly them into U.S. ships. It was truly a suicide mission. But once again, suicide had long been a part of Japanese culture, dating back to the samurai. So this was considered to be an honorable way to die in the service of your country. And so they began to use this new tactic, but of course this was very scary for American seamen who could be attacked by these kamikaze pilots. After months of fighting, though, the Allies gained control of the Philippines. Now we move on to looking at the Battle of Iwo Jima. In February of 1945, American forces set out to capture Iwo Jima. The island would provide a good base to launch raids against major Japanese cities. For the first time, Japanese soldiers were fighting for and on Japanese land. The Japanese fought ferociously and refused to surrender, but the Allies eventually won. And of course, they also took the famed picture on Mount Suribachi overlooking Iwo Jima. And this is the famed picture of the Marines raising the American flag. In fact, actually, they didn't actually raise the flag. When they didn't raise the flag, but the picture wasn't of the original raising of the flag. They actually went back and reenacted the raising of the flag for the photo op, having missed it the initial time they raised the flag. But the picture has become an iconic image of World War II, and certainly the sacrifice that many men paid in the process of trying to capture those islands in the Pacific. And just as we saw how horrific the D-Day invasion of Normandy was, those battles on those islands, trying to take the beachheads in the Pacific, were in many ways just as horrific, if not worse. And so, without a doubt, many American heroes were created during these battles. Another major battle was the Battle for Okinawa. Allied troops invaded on April 1st, 1945. The islands was to be the launching pad for the final invasion of mainland Japan. It was a bloody battle. More than 12,000 Americans died at the Battle of Okinawa. Like Iwo Jima, the Japanese refused to surrender and lost a staggering 110,000 troops. The Allies gained control of the island in June of 1945.